Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unbottleneck, the podcast where we solve digital marketing problems. And today we have an incredible surprise for you. We have Bryan Clayton, a CEO and entrepreneur, and we're going to be talking shop today about entrepreneurship and business growth, specifically unbottlenecking the challenges of starting your own business and using the internet as a tool to achieve your goals. So Bryan actually has this incredible background. He's the CEO and founder of GreenPal. You've probably heard of him. It's an online marketplace that connects homeowners with lawn care professionals. GreenPal has been called the Uber for lawn care, and by Entrepreneur Magazine has been seen over 100,000 active users completing thousands of transactions per day now. Before starting GreenPal, Bryan Clayton founded Peachtree Inc., one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee, growing to over $10 million a year in annual revenue before it was acquired by Lusa Holdings in 2013. His interests and expertise are related to entrepreneurialism, which we'll be talking about today, small business growth, marketing, especially one of my favorite things to talk about, and bootstrapping businesses from zero revenue to profitability and exits. Bryan, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and welcome to our show.
Hey, great to be here, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Just before we started, we were talking about Tennessee, and I have to say, if anyone hasn't been there and you get a chance to go out and check out this tiny little hidden town called Pigeon Forge, it's if you especially have kids, there's so many fun, cool things to do. It's like the Anaheim or Orange County of the state, with all these little theme parks and cool tourist attractions and these innovative miniature golf places. It was so much fun, and if you get out there, it's super cool. And you're from Nashville right now,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, I'm from Nashville, and we appreciate the plug. Yeah, send as many folks down here as you can.
Absolutely. And I hear something about Nashville being like the party capital of the world or something. Is that right?
Yeah, Nashville in the last 10, 15 years has become the bachelorette capital of probably the world. And so it's a crazy weekend if you come here and just stay on Broadway. I don't get down there much, but yeah, we have a very unique product here in terms of tourism. There's really nothing like it in the world.
That's amazing. Yeah, one day I'm gonna have to get out there and do more of the tours that are available to see all the incredible attractions.
Awesome.
So I got a few questions ready for you. We put
Let's
some
do it.
things together just because we want to make sure that we hit all the things that we know the listeners are going to want to hear. We definitely want to hear about your journey from being a high school kid mowing lawns, and I was there, I did that too, to where you are today as CEO of GreenPal. Can you walk us through the highlights?
Yeah. So 22 years of entrepreneurship, two businesses from scratch, both to over 8 figures. The first thing I started doing was mowing yards in high school. I was actually forced into the lawn mowing business by my father. He said, "Get off your ass. You've got a gig. No, you're going to go mow the neighbor's yard." And
How old were you?
I was probably like 15, and
Okay.
he rudely interrupted me playing Super Mario Kart and made me go mow the neighbor's
How
yard.
dare you?
We were not living in a democratic household, so it was a direct order, and went and mowed the neighbor's yard and made like $20, and something about that just really kind of struck me. I thought, wow, I can just
Right.
do this and make money and not have to want anything or need anything. This is amazing. And so I just kind of, the first thing I did after that was I went to my old school desktop computer and started making up flyers and passed out a bunch of flyers around the neighborhood. That first summer, I think I had like 10 or 15 customers and really
Dang.
kind of saw the promise. I was like, this is awesome. I'm just going to keep doing this. And I just kept with that little lawn mowing business all through high school and then all through college.
And you enjoyed it, right? That was one of the tricks I hear in business, that you have the most success when you do something you really enjoy. And for me, when I was that age, I was throwing newspapers, and I loved it. It was fun. It was cool to meet some of the neighbors, and to be up earlier before everyone else is. And I don't know, I had a lot of passion in it. And so for you, that was a fun thing. You're like, I could see myself doing this or being part of this kind of business forever.
I saw it as my lane in life almost, to kind of maybe even just kind of make something of myself. Wasn't particularly talented at much anything else, but I saw that if I worked my butt off in business, that I could actually build something from scratch. And by the time I graduated college, I had like 10 or 15 employees, and I thought, well,
Wow.
I can't go get a job now. I got to stick with this business, and
These
didn't really
people are
want.
depending on me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you've got
didn't
it's
didn't
amazing.
really want to be a lawn guy my whole life, but I made a little business plan and over a 15-year period of time, ended up building one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee. Eventually getting it over like 150 employees, and we were doing around $10 million a year in revenue before it was acquired.
That's incredible.
Yeah, in 2013. Sold the business 2013 and retired after that. So I was able to retire at the age of 32 and didn't have to work anymore, which was nice. But I got bored and I thought, well, what now? What am I going to do now? And I thought,
Yeah,
well,
entrepreneurs last what about a week in retirement before you're like,
yeah,
okay, I gotta do something. I gotta make something. Yeah.
yeah. For me, it
You're
was
so busy.
probably 6 months. It hit me. I was like sitting on a beach in Costa Rica, and the worst problem I had faced that entire week was the bar ran out of my favorite type of tequila. And I thought, I'm cut out to deal with bigger challenges in life than this. So I thought,
Yeah.
well, what now? What am I going to do now? And I thought, well, that was really hard, that landscaping company. I don't want to do that again. I'm going to do
Right.
something easy now. I'm going to start a software business. And boy, I didn't know what
Okay.
I didn't know. So I had the idea for GreenPal, which would be like the Uber for lawn mowing. And so I really believe that you should be able to push a button and get this chore done that I spent the last 15
Mhm.
years of my life in. And I thought this would be easy. We'll just build the software, we'll release it, we'll be off and
Right.
going. A couple of years, we'll have it, we'll be nationwide. And quickly was
When
confronted
you
with
go
the
from being an
reality.
entrepreneur to a software developer, oh my God.
Yeah,
So many of my peers, I mean, I look at some of the peers who move from services to software. Very few of them have any hair left. I don't know how
it's
you still have hair
very,
going through that.
very challenging. Very challenging. I had to kind of reinvent myself as a founder, to go from like a blue collar entrepreneur to a tech startup entrepreneur. And that took like three
Yeah.
years. I had to teach myself how to write software, and my co-founders did as well. And we had to teach ourselves how to invent a product, how to design a product people wanted to use. And that took a long time, and it was a very slow process in the early days. But we just stuck it out. We kept celebrating the small wins, and here we are 10 years in. We're like a 9-year overnight success. And now we have 300,000 people using the app every day to get this chore
That's
done,
amazing.
and doing over 20 million a year in revenue in this business. So
I
it's
love that. I
been
love watching when a business does so well on its own that organic becomes like the last thought, like organic traffic, because people share word of mouth, and when people are happy, they tell others, "What do you use?" "Oh, this is what I use," and before you know it, you've got 300,000 customers. Not because they're performing Google searches, but because you're doing something that works. And I've a few clients like that started from literally zero. And I look back, I'm like, how's organic doing? Like, oh, it's okay. But really, our focus is our brand, our product, our process, and just being the best at what we do. And you're like,
yeah,
that mindset is so completely different than some of the personal injury attorneys in the world whose
yeah.
only focus is to be number one in Google.
Yeah, yeah, that is funny, and sadly, sometimes that strategy can work, but most of the time it doesn't. And you have to build something that people love to use, that people want to use, that they'll keep
Mhm.
coming back to use. You really have to figure that out. You have to really nail it and then scale it. And that was a lesson we learned in the early days. And we also took a path that is not really common in tech startup world. We decided to self fund the business off of its own revenues. A lot of times,
Nice.
your tech companies will, the first thing they do is go out and try to raise a bunch of money. And that
Right.
really never appealed to me as a founder. I didn't really want to go down that path. I really felt like the business kind of had to stand on its own 2 feet.
You
And
always
that's
feel
what,
like you have someone to report to or account to, and as an entrepreneur, it's just you don't want that feeling. You don't want that feeling of owing someone or being accountable to someone. You want to be able to be free, and I get it. I'm with you.
yeah, when
It's
it
same thing here. We
works,
don't we don't have any funding either.
it works great, right?
Yeah.
Like when you see these guys raise tons of money and at bigger prices and bigger check sizes, it's a beautiful thing. But the reality is, for most founders, it's a bad bet. And it's my belief that venture capital ruins more businesses than it helps create. And so you kind of have to really study the failures to understand if you want to go down that path. And if you do, you need to know what it means.
Yeah, and sometimes that means being small for a
Yeah,
while, and that's okay. Just go
yeah,
through it. Do the be small for a while if you need to.
yeah.
So, next question I have for you is digging into some of your guiding principles and inspiration for entrepreneurs. Let's start with this one. Start to look at business as a video game. Can you explain that one to us?
Yeah, I grew up playing video games, and I don't anymore because I fear that I would just do nothing but sit around and play.
I got a Galaga in here, and I play it probably 20 minutes a day. So,
Yeah, I think that's healthy. But I would probably like if I got one of these latest and like newest consoles, I would probably just would be
oh yeah,
sitting around playing video games for 7 hours a day. So I don't want to do that. But back when I was when I was a teenager, I used to play tons of Nintendo and
you're
looking
making me
back.
feel old because I played Atari. I was playing like
Hey,
old
I had one of
Atari
those. I had one of
16-bit
those
stuff.
too.
Yeah.
But
You said Mario Kart, and I'm like, I'm really old because Mario Kart was when I was a teenager, and when I was a kid, I was on, the Atari 2900.
yeah, yeah. And looking back, it's like business is kind of like a video game.
Yeah,
You really have to just focus at one level at a time, and
yeah,
don't get bent out of shape about what level 8, 9, and 10 look like when you're on levels 1, 2, and 3. And I think the reality is a lot of new founders, they're worried about Bowser when they don't have their first dozen customers yet. And
sure.
you don't need to be worried about those sorts of things. You don't need to be worried about necessarily what your brand strategy is and what your culture strategy is, or what the kind of
Mm-hmm.
office space you're looking at, and how you're gonna you really just need a dozen customers. And I
Right.
think a lot of new founders get hung up on that, and it's like, just get through level one, whatever that is, and don't worry about
Every
anything
entrepreneur
else.
has that problem. You're right. You're absolutely right. Every entrepreneur, like I got to have a business plan, a marketing plan. I got to figure out where my office is going to be. You know what? You're so right because I had that same dilemma. It's one of the reasons I didn't start a lot of things I wanted to start because I had to have everything, all my ducks aligned. But you're right. If you're passionate about something, you just jump into it and start doing it. All that stuff kind of comes together on its own.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
thing is that it's almost if doing work too soon is unnecessary, is almost fake work. And so it's like a lot of
Yeah.
times a new founder will want to spend 3 months securing the trademark or something like that, and it's like you haven't made $1,000 in revenue. The trademark doesn't matter. let's
Yeah.
let's let's go hustle up 20 customers and let's learn from that feedback, and then if that works, then maybe we spend 10 grand on the trademark. And this is a mistake I see made over and over again. And I've made the mistake too. And you really have to look at it like, okay, there's 10 levels. What do those levels look like? What level am I on? And let's not worry about anything else until we get through this level.
That's such an amazing approach too. And sorry for interrupting earlier. I get really excited when we talk about video games. I
Me
think
too.
both of us probably have that in common. You're right. We probably, if we went to an arcade, our wives would have to like literally drag us out by our ears.
Yeah.
But I love that approach because you're right. Some people overthink everything that they want to do instead of just jump right in. And I think it's such a great methodology. I'm gonna have to tweet that later. I think that's such a cool thing. I think for the industry and all entrepreneurs to think about is start with level one, master
Right.
level one, and then move on to level two. Stop trying to plan ahead for level 10, and I'm sure at some point during the year you're gonna take a break and you're gonna start thinking about and envisioning things that you want to do. Write those things down. You don't have to act on them yet, but write them down so they don't go anywhere. And then as things start to come together, and you're like, hey, let's start planning for the next year, for the next round. Then you start getting into some of the smaller things that will improve, what you did in that first round.
That's right.
I love that. That's such a great
And this
approach.
stuff seems obvious, but when you're kind of in it, it's easy to get sidetracked, and it's easy to get the bright shiny object syndrome. And you really just got to focus on one or two things at a time, get through the
I'm
level,
the
and on to the
worst.
next thing.
So here's something else you said that stood out to me was success is a lousy teacher. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think success can make you think that you're smart, and it can make you think that you know it all, and it can make you believe that you have all the
Mm,
answers, and it can also cause you to stop doing the hard work of innovation, and
right.
it can really slow your progress in a weird way. And I've been guilty of this, where we'll have a couple, I've had a couple good quarters, and we kind of like turn our, we let our focus get like turned towards something else that doesn't necessarily matter, and when in fact we needed to really double down on the things that were working. And so success, you got to be careful, because it can almost be counterproductive. And
Yeah.
in fact, I heard a quote the other day that, like, good times breed weak men
Mm,
breed bad times breed strong men, strong men make good times. And so
It
in a
sounds
weird
like something out of
way,
Star Wars almost.
yeah, in a weird way, that's what business is like. If it's going really good, it's hard to keep that flywheel going because it's like necessity is the mother of invention. And you
Mhm.
kind of lose that necessity a little bit, and it can cause you to lose your edge. And I've had that happen to me.
It's true. You feel the roller coaster of entrepreneurialism. You think you've hit this amazing point, and then something happens. Like you're being tested. A client goes away. There's a lawsuit or something. Fortunately, that's never happened to us, but I've seen it happen to other entrepreneurs. Um, you have a business partner, and they split up, and the business partner has a better lawyer, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So there's all sorts of those fun scenarios that happen. So I've always tried to not look at where I am at any given moment as success.
yeah,
I celebrate the little wins for sure. If I, when I bring my mom up to the office, she's just like, look at the success you've had. You've written a textbook for colleges who have an online program. You're teaching at all these different universities. You've got these amazing 9 team members on your team. You've achieved success. And I'm like, Mom, those are all just steps in my journey. There's just
right.
part of where I'm going. And tomorrow it could all fall apart, and that's okay because if it does, I'm still going to be passionate about what I do. I'm going to be innovative. I'm going to bring myself up to to where I need to be. But yeah, having that success mindset, you're right. It could be really detrimental. Instead, you just look at all the little wins when you have them, you celebrate them, and then you move on to the next the next goal, the next achievement. But I think if you look at it as a destination, yeah, you're right. You're setting yourself up, for failure because then you're going to be like, I'm done, I did it, and then the next day life's going to smack you, right?
Yeah, it's like Jeff Bezos says in every shareholder letter, like, it's still day one. It is literally
Uh-huh.
still day one. And even building GreenPal from 0 customers and now several 100,000 and 8 figures, it still feels like day
Totally.
one. We have a long way. We want to get to 9 figures, so we got a long way to go. So it's important for it to yeah, celebrate the small little victories because that helps you manage your psychology along the way. But
Mhm.
it also can help you to have that mentality of it is still day one. We have a long way to go.
Yep. Well, we're going to ask something on one of my favorite topics around marketing and digital marketing. We noted some of your frustration with paid advertising in your CBS interview last year, saying you keep getting squeezed further and further down the search results page. As a startup, you don't have $1 million advertising budget. Um, we know many can relate. So, what's your approach to digital advertising and paid Google ads for startups?
Yeah, I think if you have a super unique, high margin, high ticket product, you can unlock it, make it work, and just pour gas on it, and maybe build a business solely on paid traffic. But the reality is I think paid traffic needs to be looked at as an accelerator of something that's already working. So at its
Mhm.
core, maybe you have some sort of distribution channel that's more organic in nature, where you're not having to pay for every click, pay for every eyeball. That could be content marketing, that could be organic search, that could be YouTube, that could be any sort of type of thing where you're organically acquiring attention and eyeballs and clicks, and then the paid can kind of be the cherry on top. It's really hard to build a business from zero solely on paid traffic because
Right.
at a certain point in time the money's going to stop, and investors aren't going to continue to fund that sort of thing, and then you're left holding the bag, and you've got all this burn, and no longer do you have the flywheel running because you don't have money to put in it. So
Sure.
I think that can be a trap that a lot of new founders fall into. And I read a stat somewhere, it's something like 60 or 70% of all venture capital goes back into 3 buckets: Google, Amazon, and Facebook.
Yep.
And
I've
and
heard
like
that.
literally this goes all right back to them. And so while these are great distribution platforms, and thank God they exist because they really do unlock opportunities to put products in people's hands. On the other hand, it can be kind of like it's kind of like, you ever see the bodybuilder that gets on steroids and they're on steroids, and the minute they stop taking steroids, like, they just deflate. It's kind of like that. It's
I've,
really,
I've read I've read Arnold's books. Yep.
yeah, it's literally just like that. And so the minute you get off the growth hormone of paid traffic, it's
Hmm.
hard to replace it, and it's hard to kind of reinvent the business. The other thing is like, in the early days, you're going to be good at maybe one channel, not, maybe two, but so if you like optimize your business around paid traffic, it's really hard to go back and retroactively build in like an organic strategy, because to be good at content marketing and an organic strategy, it really is a bet the company decision. It is the company's core competency to create this type of content. So my advice is to lay off paid traffic if at all possible, or make it less than 10% of your overall new sales, because it can lead you down a scary path.
I love that. There's something I've been working on. I call it the tactic utilization table, and it's an Excel document that's got a column for each of the different digital marketing things that you could be doing, right? Affiliate marketing, your earning links, you've got your paid search traffic through Google, paid through Bing, paid through programmatic, your display network targeting, right? You've got all those different columns, and you go to an expert in each of those areas, and you have them kind of help you do an audit and give you a score like 1 to 10, and then you look at the end of this first row, and you're like, all right, how am I doing across all the different marketing channels? How utilized am I across all the different things I could be doing?
Right?
And you're right, in many cases a lot of people put everything just in Google paid, and all the other channels kind of get neglected.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Spread your your budget out a little bit, and I think you can find, like you said, in YouTube, I've seen 1 cent cost per views in YouTube. You could create a really engaging, helpful video, that helps build brand awareness. And then when they visit the website, or if they've subscribed to the YouTube channel, you can retarget them and bring them into the lower part of the sales funnel. You don't need to start right out with those super competitive words if you are doing Google ads. And I think another challenge businesses have with paid advertising is they always want to be number one. It's like I'm not getting very much display on Google unless I up my bids. Don't up your bids if you don't want to go over what you're willing to spend. Let
Right.
it be slow, and then
Right.
learn from the data when things do happen. Look at your search query reports to see what words you can incorporate into your organic strategy. Look at your placement reports and see where you're getting some good qualified referral traffic from some of these sites, and build relationships with them to get more organic. I think if you use paid as a means to augment your other strategies, your affiliate partnerships, your link building, your keyword strategy. It can play really well, but you don't have to spend a lot of money to do it, and it shouldn't be number one, like you said. I think you're right. A lot of the time, it's my cost per acquisition is where I'm break even, but I look at the lifetime value of a customer and it's still profitable for me. But it's like, but couldn't you be getting a lot of that organically?
Right.
So
Right.
you're
And
right. I think.
and like Uber figured out early on, like their best money was spent inside the app and referrals,
Mhm.
and maybe that's the best ROI. It's like
Yeah.
you don't have to be number one in the three pack. When you're competing for these keywords, maybe that money is better spent on an internal referral program. And the other thing you hit on is you got to measure and look at this stuff. Most small business owners just they don't know where their money's going, and they just hope, and hope is not a strategy.
Right. I
You know,
looked at an account last week where they'd spent $48,000. They're in the financial industry. They spent $48,000 over the last year on Google Ads. I looked at their search term reports. There's keywords in there that are just the broad keyword
mm.
finance. And I'm like, oh my God, you spent all this money and weren't even looking at your reports. You just let it keep bleeding, and well, we didn't know what we were doing. It's like, oh my God.
Oh, that's the
So yeah, you're
worst.
right, and they get jaded. They don't want to go back, right?
Yeah,
Because they're like,
that's
I
the
just spent all this money for nothing. Google's
that's
not
the
going to refund
worst.
you.
Yeah. If you're not gonna
So,
dedicate the time to learn how to do this stuff, then hire a really good agency to do it for you, or don't do it at all. That's my
yep.
advice.
Or get some training, right?
Yeah.
Go to Google has free training you can go to. There's also courses that you can take locally. I mean, heck, even at the junior college here, I'm teaching SEO and SEM, a 1 unit course each, and they get exposure to all of those different things. And it costs the students hardly anything because it's a community college. So there's a lot of ways I think that you could do it, but just jumping into anything blindly,
Mm.
that's kind of scary,
It's good.
especially when there's big dollars,
It's,
like with Google Ads.
it's good way to waste 50 grand, like you're talking about.
Oh my God, I felt so bad. So a few years ago, you mentioned Facebook groups, especially local Facebook groups, as a quick tactic to gain new customers. Can you explain how you make the most of that approach and if you still stand by that?
Yeah, if you want to talk about a way to hustle up your first 100,000, even 10,000 customers, Facebook
Uh,
groups is the best way to do it.
Sick.
If you are in the home remodeling business, lawn care industry like we are, if you're in, if you have a restaurant, if you have a contracting company, it doesn't matter what kind of business it is, you
Sure.
can promote that for free in local Facebook groups and not even do it in a spammy way. A lot of
Okay.
times people are asking questions around, okay, hey, does anybody know of a good locksmith? Or does anybody know of a good hairdresser? Does anybody know? And then you can just answer that. And so this is a way for you to literally just get customers for free. And the way I used to do it in the old days, now we have a team that does this. We would just go through the whole day's posts and just control F on the page and look for our keywords. And then we would just answer, hey, you might want to check us out. You might want to check us out. You might want to check us out.
I love that.
And then sometimes we would also do a sponsored post with the group admin. Say, hey, once a month, do you mind if we do a post? We'll pay you $100 or $200, and there's great ROI there. And then taking it one step further, what I have seen done, we have not done this, but there is a platform that connects people with roommates, and what they have done is they have literally created the groups in these cities. So they've created the best local community group in St. Louis, Missouri, and that they have grown to like 300,000 members, and then they do little sponsored posts for free because they own the group. So if
That's
you
amazing.
want a way to hustle up, your first 100 or 1,000 customers, Facebook groups is a great way to do it. It's free. You don't have to spend a bunch of money doing it. It's just your time. And if you're
Just
if you're
help
hungry
people.
enough, if you're hungry enough, you'll do it.
That's amazing. I know a vitamin company called Routine, and they've started communities on Facebook and on Discord. I think they were on Slack for a while, and it's the same thing. It wasn't a routine community. It was a health and biohacking community, and they invited experts and people who are passionate about different areas of health and wellness to moderate.
Right?
And they threw me in as a moderator at one point for the productivity side because they saw that I was like a super crazy productivity guy.
Yeah.
But it was genius because nowhere in there did they ever talk about like routine, other than when they had some events, and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm getting it. But you're right. I think that's a smart way to do it, especially if you're creating something that's adding value for what people are looking for. You deserve to tout yourself once in a while because
Yeah.
you've created an environment for them to get the help and support and community that that they were looking for.
And
I
it's
love
not
that.
it's not spam. You're adding value. You're helping.
Yeah,
Especially if you're answering somebody's question who's looking for the thing that you serve. You're
yeah.
just answering their question. And I mean,
It only backfired on me once though, Brian. I could tell you. Back in the day, I used to get Google alerts, and this is kind of a fun thing for lead generation. If you get a Google alert, my Google alerts were in quotes, looking for an SEO expert. I
yeah.
need it. I need help with SEO,
Oh,
right?
amazing.
Little questions like that people ask. So, and it bit me because once I got into a forum after, getting a Google alert saying, "Can anyone recommend an SEO expert?" I jumped in, signed up for this forum, and I replied. And I'm like, "Hey, my name's Steve Wiideman. I've written some information products on search. How can I help you? Right? What can I do for you? How
Yeah.
can I support you?" And all the other SEOs in there just destroyed me. They were so like, "Who are you? And this is our community. And why are you taking our leads?" And I'm just like, "Whoa, this guy needed help. I reached out." But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. And one of the guys' name's Adam, and
Uh-huh.
Adam is now 10 years later, he's now one of my best friends in the world.
Oh,
And
that's funny.
but it's so yeah, it's amazing to look back and see the kind of things that we do as entrepreneurs to grind. Those Google alerts work, by the way. Maybe
They
not in
do.
the SEO industry and forums, but Google alerts kill it.
Yep.
Uh,
And that's just a way to hustle up your first 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 customers. You don't have to go blow 100 grand on Facebook ads.
No, not at all. I really liked your article on entrepreneur.com. It's funny, both of us got featured in there. I did one thing on Entrepreneur years ago for a company called Fretzels, and I gave them a kind of a starting plan for how to get started with their digital business back in the day. And it's fun. It's fun to help entrepreneurs, and they're just such a great platform for it. But I liked your article because it was about the choices business owners have, like to get up before 5 a.m. Oh, you're better than me. I don't get up till like 5:30, and grind it out at the crack of dawn to get or to get more sleep and opt for productivity later in the day. Can you share your current values for sleep and how you balance that with a strong work ethic?
Yeah, I think it's a spectrum. In the early days, you got to run hard. I mean, you got to really squeeze out every hour you can. If you have no customers, no revenue, and you got to figure out a way to get your first 100K in revenue, it's 7 days a week. It's 10 to 12, 13 hours a day. It just has to be, and that means you're going to have to get up early. But let's say after after you get your first $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year in revenue, now you can pull back a little bit. Maybe you've learned how to delegate some of these things, and now you can focus more on yourself and going the long haul and running the marathon. So I think
Mhm.
it's both. It's not like you have to chew glass for 10 years. And you have to hate life. It's like, no, it's probably going to be 3 or 4 years of that. Then you get the flywheel going a little bit. Then you can kind of pull back just a little bit. That's how it's played out for me. The first 3 or 4 years of GreenPal, I was at the office at my desk every morning before 7, and I was there until 7 or 8 at night every
You,
night.
you know what it's like leaving the office and seeing your car being the only one out there waiting for you,
Yep,
right?
every day.
Uh,
Every day.
been there.
And that's just what it takes. Because here's the thing: in the early days, and really it doesn't matter what stage of the game you're in, you're doing three things at once. You're working in the business. So
Mhm.
in my case, you're making sure people are getting their grass cut on time. You're making sure you're returning phone calls. You're paying bills. You're making sure the business is running properly. Then you're
Mhm.
working on the business. You're building the systems. What is our marketing system? What is our customer satisfaction system? What is
Infrastructure.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, what for in our case, what is the code we are writing to make the system work? So you're working in the business, on the business, and then you're doing a third thing. You're working on yourself. Like you
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, you're taking that course that Google put out. You're taking that
Yep.
online course on Udemy or YouTube or whatever to learn content marketing or user experience design or how to build out a call center for customer support,
Not
whatever it
resting on your
is.
laurels.
Yeah, you're
Yep.
working on yourself. So it's like you're doing these
Mhm.
three things at once. It's a 7 day a week sport in the early days. It really is. It's get there early and stay late until you got the flywheel going, and then you can pull back just a little bit.
I love it. With our team, we have when we meet once a year. Now we're trying to meet every 6 months. We have three things that they commit to helping grow the business, and then three things that they commit to helping grow themselves. And the business sponsors it. We'll pay for it. If you want to
I
take a
like
course,
that.
even if it has nothing to do with your job, if you want to take a course for video production or something, we're going to support it because we want you to grow, and we want your value in the marketplace to grow.
I like that.
So that it's been fun. And at IBM, that's why I picked it up. They were called critical business commitments. Was what we did to commit to what we want to do to improve the business, and how our in our job we were going to do that. And then we had our PBCs, our personal business, our IDPs, our individual development plans. And it's fun because you're giving back to the employees. And I remember I was the only one in my department at IBM that they wouldn't pay for college. And I said, "This is crazy. Everyone else in my department is getting to go to school, and I'm not." And the boss says, "Well, you're the hardest worker here. If you leave us, and you will if you get a degree, who's going to do your job?" And I'm like, "I'm going to pay for this on my own, and I'm going to
Yeah.
leave." And I did. It was three and a half years later, I got my degree, and I was gone.
Oh, that's awesome. They made the decision easy for you.
Yeah.
But I
Last
like
question I
that. I
have.
like
Oh,
that
go ahead.
because it's a simple thing you can do over and over and over again. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of these things are not difficult. They're not complicated. They're simple. They're just repeatable, and you can stay consistent with them. And I like that. I may implement that in our business because
I love it. I got
because
another tip for you too.
people want to be somewhere where they're growing.
Uh huh.
And
It's true.
and that's what I like about it. It's like not only are we driving the business forward, but we care about our people's growth, and we show that. People talk about values, and it's like values are one thing. It's virtues. It's like what are we doing? This is what we do. We invest in our people. We spent 100 grand last year in people taking courses to get skills that they didn't have. So I like
I
that a
love
lot.
it. That's amazing, and that's the perfect segue to kind of our last question before our lightning round here. And I'll mention, because this folds in perfectly to another thing that we've implemented recently that might be fun for listeners in terms of culture. And you shared on Twitter that if you find that you don't enjoy the culture of your company, it's time to take ownership. In your company, you have to lead by example and set the tone with your own passion and optimism. Can you give us some practical guidance of A, how you take ownership with your team, and B, how you set the tone? What kinds of conversations and interactions are you having with your team to shift the culture when that needs to happen?
Yeah, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I guess in year 8 or 9 of my first business, I was driving to the office, and I had this like pain in my stomach. I didn't want to go there because I quite frankly didn't like a lot of the people that worked there. There was 100+
Mm.
employee people there, and it was just a bad vibe, and we were always like tense and anxious and
Toxic. Yeah.
toxic. Yeah, worried about the
Yeah.
competition. People leaving, and it was just not a good place. And I thought, God, this sucks. And then I thought, well, you built this. It's like you get exactly the culture you deserve as the founder.
Right.
It reflects you. It reflects your attitude. It reflects your enthusiasm. It reflects your vibe. It reflects your everything. And so
Yeah.
I thought, well, I gotta change this somehow. And so I really just started picking up every book I could on leadership, everything John Maxwell had ever written, and started trying to implement these things just little by little. And a lot of it was just started with my personality, my attitude, my enthusiasm, and rather than like getting to the office and at times I would feel overwhelmed, and I would feel almost irritated and at times scared, and rather than reflect that, you almost kind of have to internalize it and be stoic, and yet to be a source of stability for your people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to reflect whatever it is that you're bringing to the environment. So I had to learn that the hard way, and it also had to reinvent some fun into the business. And one thing that we did was a lot of fun. We developed this little program where it didn't matter what level of the company you were at. It didn't matter what position you had. Everybody could pitch myself and my co-founder on some sort of thing that they wanted to do in their personal life. It could be like send a kid to school. It could be that they wanted to buy a new car, buy a new house, whatever. And then we would give an interest-free loan to finance it. And every quarter we picked one of these things. And it was a lot of fun. And we started doing that. And so 4 times a year, and then we upped it to once a month. And then we would check in like weekly all hands meetings, like, hey, how are things going with? There was one guy who was from Central America, and he had built a little supermarket back home with the money we loaned him. And he's like, how are things going? And he would show us pictures of it. We would put it up on like a little PowerPoint thing. And
That's so
so it was
awesome.
a neat way to kind of like say, okay, when the company wins, everybody wins. We care about everybody getting to where they're trying to go in life, and that one thing really solved a lot of the other problems. And so if you can kind of tap into a little fun thing to do, it doesn't have to be something like that big. It can be something that's hundreds of dollars, just something that's
Mhm.
fun and just repeatable. And it's something that you do not skip. You do it once a month or once a quarter, and it's like clockwork. That can help take care of a lot of the other things. It's one thing that I learned doing that.
That is so much better than what we do. We have some cool things too. We have like our annual Disneyland trip. There's only 9 of us, so we take our families to Disneyland. We're 10 minutes away, so it's not a big deal. But
Awesome.
that's only once a year,
Yeah.
and then we do our little award ceremony and stuff, and that's always fun. We get our team picture on the little Guardians of the Galaxy drop ride, which is always ridiculous and silly. The
Nice.
other thing we do is an accountability program. So rather than but there's no managers here. There's no leaders. There's no or not leaders, but there's no supervisors.
No
So what
bosses.
we do is, yeah, we have accountability buddies, right? And I've always offered, you want to rotate? I do an anonymous survey. Do you guys want to rotate your accountability buddies? And then what we do is we hold each other accountable to the things that we commit to do for the week. Here are the 3 big things I want to get accomplished this week. And our accountability buddy, and it doesn't have to be somebody at your level. It could be someone lower, higher, whatever.
I like
We'll
that.
check up on you. How are you doing? How are you doing with those 3 things? Do you need some help? Do you want to escalate to, to one of the other team members to see if we can get some support? So we're supporting each other, and keeping each other accountable to the things that are on our list,
Yeah.
so that nobody sort of falls to the wayside. There's always someone there to help you and take care of you, and then you have somebody else who you're taking care of. And that's been a really fun program, because then we don't have to pay for supervisors and
Yeah.
directors and managers, and they love that, because now they're not micromanaged. Now they're helping each other.
A lot of
Yeah.
things kind of take care of themselves when you solve them at like that root cause. Accountability is everything, but nobody wants a boss. So maybe you figured out the happy medium.
I have, and we are a little bit of a different environment too. There's a lot of us are from corporate backgrounds, and we're in that sort of professional field. But is was the other thing we did is a wellness program, using an app called Levelhead. Still
Okay.
kind of new, but yep, it's called Levelhead, and you have to kind of apply to be part of the program. Sandra and Sue over there, who kind of run the program, they created this app, and it gives you little 1 to 3 minute exercises that you can do. One to relax and to de-stress, how to handle certain situations. And then you run little competitions, and those people who get through certain tracks in all these little 1 to 2 minute little snippets get prizes every month. So
I
we're
like a
we're
good.
giving away
I like a little
awesome
bit of
support.
fun competition. I like that.
Yeah, it's neat. So my lightning round questions. I know we went way over what we were going to, but that's okay. I've had a good time. So lightning round questions. Number one, your best tip for young people thinking of going out on their own and bypassing the whole work with somebody else scenario.
uh, yeah, tip or maybe just advice. I think a lot of so-called gurus these days will have young people believe that your 20s are for a period of like finding yourself and maybe
Vaynerchuk.
maybe him. Yeah, but he's not the only one. Like everybody's espousing this belief that it's okay to not get anything done in your 20s, essentially.
Yeah.
And even Gary Vaynerchuk worked his butt off in his 20s. I mean, so your 20s, in my view, are a decade to get on first base and build some kind of foundation. And maybe that's, a business with 3 or 4 employees, or a business with $1 million in revenue, or a business and you've sold it for $500,000 or $1 million. So where now in your 30s, you can swing for a double or a triple or a home run. It's really hard to start from zero in your 30s and 40s. And so my advice to everybody in their 20s that's listening to this is like, be scared. Be scared at waking up at 35 and then having to start from scratch. Like, don't let that be you. Really focus on one really good mission, really good idea, and just work your butt off to make it happen. And that means you're not going to be able to go to all the parties. It means you're going to miss out on some social stuff. It means you're not going to have the nicest clothes. And the other thing is like, the least you can live on, the greater your options, especially in your 20s. So much of like kids, not I say kids, but younger people in their 20s and 30s these days, like they spend insane amounts of money on stuff that doesn't matter. And it's like, I don't know where our culture got so sideways on this, but if you would just take the $1,000 you spent on like that outfit and like literally put it into like a course on how to build a business, they'll never catch it. And so
Yeah, you'll buy those clothes on interest in 20 years.
right. And the other thing is like, you literally think like Warren Buffett, in terms of like Warren Buffett used to always say, I don't look at $100 like $100. I look at it like it's $10,000, because that's what eventually it will become. So these are all things like beating your head in your 20s. And then maybe you can retire at, 32 like I did, or at 40 or 45. That's the goal, man. And so like that's my advice to anybody in the 20s listening to this.
That's amazing. What are your favorite online tools that you use to run your business, and especially your digital marketing?
I like, it's not necessarily a tool, but it's a platform. I like Upwork. It's a great way to get connected with good freelancers. So that's a platform and a tool that I use the hell out of. I love Trello in terms of the visualization of the Kanban chart and getting
Project
stuff done.
management.
Man, I get so much done with that simple free tool. A/B testing, I like Google Optimize. It's a free A/B testing suite. I've learned so much from A/B testing, Google Optimize. For SEO, I like Ahrefs
Okay.
and SEM Rush.
If you had to choose between those two, what's your favorite?
It's tough because they both are good at one thing.
Yeah.
Ahrefs really is good at links and some other stuff, and SEM Rush is pretty much good at everything else. I probably would can SEM Rush and go with Ahrefs because links are just that important. So, and I could probably list another 20 tools if you wanted to hear them. All I got to do is just look at my browsers.
I feel you. Yeah, finally got my toolbar organized in a way where I've got folders now and analytics tools all nice and organized.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
the
That's a
match
beautiful thing.
before.
What a world we live in these days.
Yep. All right. Mistakes you've learned in business on your journey. So for those people who are about to, go out and be an entrepreneur and start their own, lawn mowing business and get a couple employees under them, what are some things to avoid and that's that you could teach them so that they don't have to go through that same hell that we went through in our early days as entrepreneurs?
Yeah, scaling and delegating too soon, and then scaling and delegating too late. So
Okay.
that might sound, it might sound like nebulous, but the thing is, it's like a lot of times we want to like delegate too soon, and we want to scale too quickly. Like I coached an entrepreneur the other day. He's like, "Hey, I understand you had a landscaping company, and I've got this car washing business, and
Yeah.
I want to scale it." And I'm like, okay. He's like, how do I do that? And I'm like, okay, well, what were sales last month and last year? Well, I don't really know. Okay, what do you mean you don't know? Well, it's kind of like it all goes in my bank account. I just spend it. I'm like, okay, well, the first thing we need
Wow.
to do is we need to. So, like, and I'm not beating up on this guy. Like, I've been there too. And so
Sure.
it's like you gotta like nail it, then scale it. So you kind of have to think of yourself as an
You said
employee.
that twice. I love that.
Yeah,
Nail it, then scale it.
you
That's
really
that's my
do
next little tweet I'm gonna have to do
got to
there.
get it right at the fundamentals and the core, like the unit economics, and understand
Yeah.
what it is you're selling and what your margin is on that unit. And in his case, he's selling labor hours cleaning cars, and if he can understand what it costs to produce that labor hour, what he can sell it for,
Mhm.
then he can get to a place where he can maybe scale it. So scaling and delegating too soon, hiring your first employee too soon, and then the other side of the coin is waiting and doing that stuff too late. And I've made this mistake many times when it is working and you're working 80 hours a week, you're doing everything yourself, and then you don't want to delegate anything because you're worried somebody else is going to screw it up and they don't know how to do it your
No
way.
one ever does it as good as we do, Brian.
Right, right. And then and in reality, it's harder work to come in on a Sunday and like set out the role and the goals and like the standard operating procedures. And so you just do it the old way and you never get ahead. And so I've done that the wrong way also. So scaling and delegating too soon, and then scaling and delegating too late. Now, those are
I
mistakes
love
that
it.
I've made and that you got to be aware of if you're committing any of those errors.
Sure. Well, aside from sharing your incredible brand, is there anything you'd like to share with listeners and how they can connect with you and the business or get started?
Yeah, yeah. Anybody listening to this doesn't want to waste time cutting your own yard. You just download GreenPal in the App Store or Play Store. And then anybody wants to reach me, most of my social media is on Instagram. So you can just hit me up at Bryan M. Clayton. Drop me a follow and a DM there. I'll hit you back.
Brian, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, and I think we've unbottlenecked the challenge of starting from nothing to growing. What was a $32 billion business? That's amazing, and congratulations on all your success. And hopefully we can do something like this again and dig into a specific topic down the road.
Right on. When we get to 100 mil, I'll come back on, Steve.
I love it. Thanks, Brian. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.